bonjour, buongiorno, boa tarde, buenos tardes, good afternoon. Today's topic, his story. Because the thing is, dead men tell no tales. So I say his story because, in my humble opinion, there's only one side of the story, and I'm not trying to make it uh, about sex. It's just a little pun or clever wordplay on his story, right? So, what kind of history is there? We can break it down really quickly into four main categories. There's prehistory, there's ancient, and so prehistory actually breaks up into further categories and stuff like that. We may or may not unpack that. But so first we have prehistory, ancient history, post-classical history, and then modern history, which is, yeah, more the most recent history, right? So, okay, really, really cool. And each one of these categories breaks up. Generally, what I guess historians like to do is they like to break it up into general history, or they try to bring up the sociological aspects into it, like the technology, or unfortunately, war. So, I mean, each one of these categories can be broken down into more stuff and then refiltered and categorized differently. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start browsing and see what happens, right? So, here we go. Our first story with 4,590 upvotes. My uncle was a tunnel rat in Vietnam and has agreed to do an interview with me in the next 2 days. I need help finding the right questions to ask him. If you're a historian or just curious and you have something you'd like to submit, please go ahead. We may come back to that depending on how we're doing with time to see what people suggested, right? So our following story with 3,287 upvotes. Are there any countries, oh, are you serious? Are there any countries have actually moved geographically? Okay, are there any countries that have actually moved geographically? And I think we'll go ahead and shoot that to our unofficial co-host. Alexa, are there any countries that have actually moved geographically?
Here's something I found on the web. According to geocaching.com, geographically, there are no countries anywhere.
Oh, what? Wow, I was not expecting that answer, you cheeky bugger. That was interesting. That was really interesting. Okay. I'm not sure how much validity or not there is to that, but I was definitely not expecting that answer out of her. Our following story has 3,240 upvotes. Ridley Scott is making a biopic of Napoleon Bonaparte, in which he will show 6 of Napoleon's 61 battles. Which 6 would you choose? Interesting. Especially if it's, I would say the ones that have the most significance. That's just my humble opinion. It's really hard to prioritize, right? But I would say the ones that were like, the turning points, the ones that really had, the significance for sure, I would say. Okay. Our following story with 2,361 upvotes. Okay, folks, the greatest long shots in history. Let's hear about them. Oh man, that is definitely something I want to unpack. So we're going to click that. We're going to browse over it really quickly and we'll come back to that. That is definitely something I want to unpack with you guys. Our following story with 1,963 upvotes. Why was double entry bookkeeping such an important historical development? Double entry bookkeeping, such an important historical development. Interesting. I'm not sure we're going to have time to come back to that question because I know for sure that other one, we're definitely going to come back to it. Our following story with 1,934 upvotes. The real story of how America became an economic superpower. Okay, interesting. Our following story with 1,475 upvotes. What significant differences were there, if any, between World War I trenches and World War II trenches. Ooh, and I would love for you history buffs to go on and elaborate on that. Was it the first time we had trench warfare? I'm not sure, but I would think the techniques that they employed got better, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they abandoned the trenches altogether, but I'm pretty sure war had definitely changed the second time around. That's just my humble opinion. I'd love for you historians and you history buffs to go ahead and elaborate further, please. Our following story, with 1,140 upvotes, Ogden Times, 1916. Europe's first mothers will be stronger, and it is predicted by scientists that their ascendancy over man has begun. Pseudoscience at best, but a fascinating look at the social anxieties surrounding women's increasing role in the workplace during World War II. Very, very fascinating. Very fascinating. Our following story, with 962 upvotes. What changes in the shipping, maritime, and cruise industries happened after the sinking of RMS Titanic? That is interesting, but what I can just put caveat really quick is technology. We have technology now that hadn't been developed then. So I would like to think that maritime and ships and naval and all that stuff are a little bit safer. And for everyone at sea and all that stuff, please be safe. Our following story, 813 upvotes. What were European natives like? Their lifestyle, culture, etc., before they became more civilized and modern? And another question about Native Americans. Interesting. So, European natives would have been Druids, Celtics. I could be wrong, but let's ask my unofficial co-host. Hey Alexa, what were the European natives like?
Here's something I found on the web. According to IPL.org, the Europeans had always been involved in trade routes, but the natives were more into gift giving.
Anyways, I guess I didn't word that correctly. Well, we'll go ahead and moving right along. Our following story has 670 upvotes. Why didn't anyone revolt against the Macedonian kings? That is a really, really good question. I don't have the answer, and there is an answer out there. Very interesting, very interesting. Our following story has 454 upvotes. The islands of Jersey and Guernsey, secretly French? I know it sounds like clickbait, but it's not. Interesting. So I'm assuming somebody's posing a hypothesis or their theory, and they have some evidence. I would like to believe they have evidence to say that they're secretly French. Okay. We may or may not get back to that, because there is one thing that we are holding on reserve. We will get back to that. Our following story has 437 upvotes. Simple, short, silly. History questions, sad. Oh, okay. Okay, we may come back to this one or not, depending on the time. I should have pre-read that, but I mean, I don't like to do that. I like to do this on the fly, you know? Okay, here's a book club. We may or may not get to that. David versus, our following story, right? With 355 upvotes, because we kind of skipped. How many did we skip? I'm not even going to lie. We skipped, silly short questions came out twice. Book club came out 3 times. So we may or may not get right back to that. But having said that, our following story with 355 upvotes, David versus Goliath. Who was the only U.S. general killed in the American Indian Wars? 1775 to 1890. Let's go ahead and ask our unofficial co-host. Alexa, who was the only U.S. general killed in the American Indian Wars?
I don't know that.
Really? I'm surprised she didn't know that. And I also wanted to apologize for getting a phone call Lexi, I know you're probably not watching the show. I'm gonna have to explain to you why I didn't answer. I'll get back to you. Having said that, our following story with 315 upvotes. Again, simple short history. See, I didn't really preface this one too well, but that's good because if we're doing good time, then that means that we'll be able to go back and unpack what I wanted to. So I'm excited about that. Our following story with 303 upvotes. New to history in general, what are good places to start? I mean, yeah, you could say like recent history, I would say pick an event. This is my humble opinion. Pick an event that fascinates you and start your deep dive there. Okay, book club. We're not doing the book club thing. Okay, good. We're down to our last three. Well, four. I think. No. We're down to our last three because that one's a silly short history question. So, okay, good. And I think we're making pretty good time, you guys. So, our following story with 243 upvotes. How Native Americans adorned themselves with Bavarian pearls in the 17th century. Interesting. Well, she did mention about the trade. So, when did that initial trade get started? I think they're going to uncover more. They've been uncovering more evidence to show that maybe they were trading sooner. I mean, did it start with the Vikings? Was it before? This is why we are unpacking this subject right now, you guys. And I'd love for you guys to continue the conversation and the debate in the comments below, please. So that's interesting. How Native Americans adorned themselves with Bavarian pearls in the 17th century. I like that. Our following story with 52 upvotes. Why do different cultures across the world have dragons? Very interesting. And I would also go on to say I'm pretty sure that the dragon isn't the only symbolism that they have in common as well. A lot of cultures also had the sun, the moon, the star, all that stuff. And it's very fascinating and I love it. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to unpack that or not, but guys, our final story for the moment with 50 upvotes. I'm tired of my under-acceptable knowledge of history. How do I change that? Well, I would definitely say by putting effort, opening a book, picking a point in history that piques your interest, and to start your deep dive there as well. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to backtrack. We're going to go back, and we're going to go ahead and, oh my goodness. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. This was submitted by Prime Movers Only 4 days ago. This has 2,364 upvotes. Okay, folks, the greatest long shots in history. Let's hear about them. Now, this is the opening post. This is the post. The lesser known, the better, but all are welcome. Some qualifying examples. Unlikely individuals rising to power. Smaller forces succeeded versus larger forces. Underdog winners in sport, war, politics, as well as situational outcomes for individuals and collectives. Long shot surprises of any remarkability. Example, Spartacus escaped slavery with about 70 other gladiators. He went on to raise an army about 100,000 and defeat the greatest military establishment ever known 6 times over 4 years. Oh, wow. One of history's favorite long shots. They made a Hollywood blockbuster, The Gladiator. And if you guys haven't checked out that movie, I would be very surprised if you haven't. Check it out. It may not have all the idiosyncrasies and all of the subtle nuances of what really happened back then, but maybe you don't want to pick up a book. Maybe it's easier to sit down and watch a movie. Whatever works better for you. Here we go. So, here, the following one is, Rocky Marciano was smaller, lighter, and had a shorter reach than his heavyweight opponents, yet maintained the heavyweight title without losing once during his whole career. I did not know that. History's long shots. I like that. I like that. Here's another example that they're giving us. The Battle of Agincourt. Agincourt. I probably butchered that. I mean, that's just what I do, you guys. I mean, Henry V had a third or fourth the number of forces. No cavalry, but fought cavalry. Five, six of his forces were archers. 1/6 dismounted men at arms. And an army undersupplied and struggling with debilitating sickness, yet beat the French, killing 10-1. So what they're saying, dismounted men at arms. Now, did they have like a pole arm? Did they have short arms? Now, 5-6 of his forces were archers, which is great because you have that range. And I'm assuming they were on the defensive and they were defending. I'm assuming. I could be totally wrong. But, I mean, they killed 10-1. So history is definitely writing about this. Man. And then he goes on to say, what other historical long shots come to mind? Any surprise outcomes about, okay, yeah, let's hear them. Yeah, I didn't want to, but yeah, let's bloody get on with it, bro. Okay, so our first comment with, I can't even pronounce that username. Stralau, Straul, I don't know. Sorry for butchering your name, that's what I do. With 362 upvotes. Is a miracle of the House of Brandenburg a contender? Frederick the Great was facing a bleak military situation in 1762, with the might of both Austria and Russia both ranged against him. Not for the first time, but it looked as though the game was up. No, but that's not how you type it. Oh God. It looked as though the game really was up this time around. It's not what he put, but anyways. We're paraphrasing. That's what we're doing. Fortunately for him, Empress Elizabeth of Russia died, and her successor, Peter, was a great admirer of Frederick's style of enlightened absolutism. Enlightened absolutism. What is that? Alexa, can you define enlightened absolutism?
According to Wikipedia, enlightened absolutism refers to the conduct and policies of European absolute monarchs during the 18th and early 19th centuries who were influenced by the ideas of the Enlightenment, espousing them to enhance their power. The concept originated during the Enlightenment period in the 18th and into the early 19th centuries. Did that answer your question?
It sure did. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your feedback.
Okay, Alexa. Thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and do...
Absolutely. Happy to help.
Okay, so then what happened is he promptly reversed Russia's policy, ending the war and signing a peace treaty and friendship with Frederick. Very interesting. We're going to go ahead and, because I don't want to talk y'all's head off too much, but I do want to try to get some more of these long shots in, as this was really the gold nugget. This is what I was really hoping to find. Okay. Anti Lucas. This following the next story that was submitted by ANTILOKHOS with 1,026 upvotes. Claudius, fourth emperor of the Roman Empire, has suffered from some sort of disability that had people at the time thinking he was mentally defective for most of his life. Placed on the throne after Caligula because he was thought to be easy to control, he goes on to rule for 14 years. Oh, whoa. And has a major impact on the Roman Empire. I hope they elaborate what that is. Introduces a ton of legal and bureaucratic reform that actually enable the empire to survive and administrate itself effectively. Took the massive debt left by previous emperor and turned it into a massive surplus. That sounds great. And he expanded the empire by bringing the first parts of Britain under Roman rule. All in all, as impressive top 10 emperor, which isn't bad for a guy who was completely dismissed at his time. Yeah, he totally was. It's thought he had cerebral palsy or possible Tourette's. He walked with a limp. Was partially deaf, and apparently would drool a little at a time. Yeah, I can see how that would give people that kind of impression. Sure, he had trouble speaking off the cuff, although Augustus himself was impressed on historical treaties he ornated at one point. Okay, cool. When prepared, he was quite articulate, which I'm not. His symptoms would get worse when he was worked up. He was well respected as a historian prior to his rise, but was generally ostracized within the power players of Rome during to his affliction. Oh my God, my bad. I'll English eventually. There's speculation that he played upon his condition to avoid the purges of Tiberius and Caligula, because records of his condition remarkably improved after his ascension. You cheeky bugger. You cheeky bugger. Though whether that's whitewashing the truth, you can't really say, right? Yeah, it is kind of speculative. But it's interesting. This is interesting. Never did have much luck with the ladies, however. Okay. 4 marriages, none of them ended well. Killed by his last wife, his niece, to ensure Nero, her son, would ascend to the throne, not Claudia's natural son, Britannicus, I think, whom Nero had murdered on the eve of his adulthood. Oh man, who needs enemies when you have family? Oh man, that was crazy. I was so glad they were so elaborate. Thank you so much for submitting that. How many more? Okay, I guess this will be the last long shot we do, but Blind Pelican with 574 upvotes. Surprised no one has mentioned the siege of Malta in 1565 yet. Pretty crazy event. Some 600 knights, Hospitaller, and several thousand irregulars held off an invading Ottoman siege force of 40,000. Wait, what? Oh, okay, 600 knights, several thousand. No. Okay, I thought, yeah. For some reason, my mind registered 40,000 versus 600. And I'm like, what? How did that happen? Let's try to sneak in one more. Okay, Ernest Shackleton bringing his men back alive from the wreck of the Endurance. Okay, cool. Okay, well, I wanted to sneak some more stuff in there, because like I said, prehistory is awesome. You can go into prehistory by itself and break it into its subcategories and then break those categories further. Ancient history, when I was younger, was one of my favorites. I love the ancient Greeks and Romans and all that stuff. I love ancient history so much, and you can break that down further. Post-classical history, isn't that far away, and it gets more interesting, as society develops and technologies and warfare develops and stuff. And then we have our modern history, which I'm not sure if we would ever unpack that. Not that I'm opposed to that, but I think next time around we might dive into one of those other subjects a little bit more and try to get our hands dirty more and see what else we can uncover and stuff, you guys. But okay, Riders on the Storm. Just go ahead and breathe and unpack. Wow, his story, history, very fascinating. I thought I had selected a documentary about druids over there. I'm not sure what kind of symbolism or what's been going on over here, but I hope it's been very fascinating. And if you have any comments or questions or screenshots or whatever, send them our way. Please. And to keep with the historical, his story theme, I decided to put Total War, which is a franchise I'm very fond of. But this is actually a game I own and play. This is Shogun Part 2. This is awesome. This is all taking place in feudal Japan during the, 17th, 18th century. This is awesome. Awesome. You can see the cavalry running around. You see the different banners. See those units are broken. Yeah, see, he just won. I could have told. So, very fun game. I really love this game. I want to give a shout out to the YouTuber. It is Mr. Smart Donkey. Salute to you, sir. I'm also watching you and Monsters Abound do your co-op. And it did take some getting used to. But definitely love this game. Definitely encourage you guys to check this out. And we got a fireplace now going over there. So, then, yeah, see, it gives you the breakdown, does all this stuff. But, we'll continue to break all this stuff down for you guys further. As always, y'all know the drill. Keep it locked in. Go fix yourself. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. I love each and every one of you.